MegaPodTastic.
Good morning, MegaPodlings. It's Crazy Joe. We're back at Water Tower Cinema. They just reopened on Friday due to the governor of Pennsylvania had them shut down. They are now reopened. And I am going in to see Wonder Woman 1984 on the big screen. This will be my fourth time seeing the movie. I've seen it on HBO Max 3 times. I really wanted to see it on the big screen for the first time, but unfortunately, that did not happen. But we're here now. My fourth viewing will be at the on the big screen, and it's about time. Let's check this out. Closed on Tuesdays. We're going to the 12:40 show. There is the movie poster. And note it says only in theaters. Clearly, that was not the case. Both fortunately and unfortunately. There are pros and cons. And this is my first time here since the governor allowed the theater to reopen last week. There it is, Wonder Woman. I'm very sad I didn't get to see this on the big screen my first time, but it is what it is. So I finally got to see Wonder Woman 1984 on the big screen. It is the way I intended to see the movie first. I figured I'll see it for the first time on the big screen, and then I'll be sure to check it out on HBO Max for repeat viewings. That was my plan. Of course, the coronavirus had other plans because the state of Pennsylvania got locked down again. Well, you know, some businesses like restaurants and movie theaters got shut down again. Understandably, our numbers were spiking. I get why it happened. It's not like I'm saying it shouldn't have happened. I understand the reason. And I guess these things are necessary. But unfortunately, it put me in a position where I had to watch Wonder Woman 1984 for the first time on HBO. I mean, I guess I could have waited, but it was my most anticipated film of the year. I wasn't going to wait any longer than I had to. And more importantly, my wife, Christine, was not going to wait. She's a Wonder Woman fanatic. She needed to see it. And, so we watched it together on Christmas night. I did an initial review. If you look back, you can find my initial review of Wonder Woman 1984. At the time, I said I couldn't decide if it was as good as the first one or not. Well, I went on to watch the movie 2 more times on HBO Max, and now I've seen it on the big screen for a 4th viewing, and I can easily say it's not as good as the first one. In fact, here is my 10-word, spoiler-free review of Wonder Woman 1984. You ready? Wonder Woman 1984 summed up in 10 words. Wonder Woman 1984 is good, but it could be better. That's sums it up perfectly. That sums it up perfectly. It's a solid movie. This is I see, oddly enough, it's very strange. Within the first 24 hours of Wonder Woman 1984 being out, it was overwhelmingly loved by critics and fans alike, and it was like, I think like in the high 90s or something on Rotten Tomato. People really liked it. But then, like, as the weekend went on, it just started dropping, and people kept getting more and more vocal about how much they hate the movie. And it sort of turned into this thing where people are acting like it's one of the worst movies of all time, which is, of course, ridiculous because it's actually a solid movie. It's very entertaining. It's fun. It's very fun all around, and there's more good in this movie than bad. The movie's biggest drawback is its runtime. It's a little too long. Movie's 2.5 hours long. They could easily trim a half hour out of the film. For one thing, the opening scene on Themyscira, it's a fine scene, but it really doesn't seem to add anything to the movie other than to give us our first view of the golden armor that would come into play later. And we get a whole story on the golden armor later in the movie. So that scene is kind of unnecessary. And then it's just kind of to introduce us to this idea of the truth is beautiful, the truth is all you need, and you can't win when you're a liar. But we get all that later. So it's just kind of like, so later on we could tie it back to this intro. And it almost feels like it was there just because they wanted to get Robin Wright and Connie Nielsen into the movie. And they couldn't think of any other way to do it. So they're like, oh, Themyscira flashback. But you cut that opening and you'll lose nothing. Because the second scene of the movie, which is the mall scene, best scene in the movie, by the way, the mall scene, they open with their best scene. And maybe that's another problem, is you open with such a strong scene, this scene in the mall, that it kind of, it's like, well, you led with the best scene. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go from there? Because, I mean, the final battle with Cheetah is very blink and you miss it. So, and that's another thing. I would probably drop a lot of the Cheetah stuff. Cheetah is not the main villain in this movie. She's definitely a second stringer in the movie. In the comics, Cheetah's one of Wonder Woman's main adversaries. But in this movie, she's very much a second stringer because it's Maxwell Lord's story. So those are the two things I think I would drop. I think I might drop Cheetah from the movie altogether. And I would drop the intro on Themyscira. Because if you just have Maxwell Lord and it be his story, you have a tighter film. And I think that works better. One of the strengths in the movie is Pedro Pascal. He gives a great performance as Maxwell Lord. And I've said many times, Maxwell Lord's a character I've loved for years. He first debuted in the Justice League comics in 1987. And there's really only two writers who've ever done the character justice. And that's the guys who created him, Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis. Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis wrote Justice League. They're the creators of Maxwell Lord. And when they left the book, other writers kind of picked up the Maxwell Lord character and butchered him. Famously, Jeff Johns. Jeff Johns, who's a great comic book writer, has written some of the best things DC Comics has ever put out. The guy is a true talent. But when he got his hands on Maxwell Lord, he turned Maxwell Lord into a brutal murderer, which is wildly out of character. Maxwell Lord was never a bad guy. Yeah, he was kind of sleazy, kind of, a little bit manipulative, but underneath it, he had a heart of gold. And he eventually, in the comics, grew from being this guy who was kind of trying to use the Justice League to his own means to becoming a real asset to the Justice League. That in the final issue of Keith Giffen and J.M. DeMatteis' run, Martian Manhunter tells Max Lord, "You're my best friend." But then these other writers came in and they turned him into nothing but a manipulative murderer. And it's like, did you even read the run that came before? Did you even read that the creators of this character gave this character this long arc where he went from being kind of sort of sleazy to being a genuine good guy? It never made sense what Jeff Johns did to the character. Jeff Johns really kind of took a crap on the character, if you ask me. But the movie gets him right. The movie gives Max this nice redemption arc, and it feels like the Max Lord that J.M. DeMatteis and Keith Giffen created back in Justice League. So that's a strength. Obviously, Gal Gadot, or Gal Gadot, I never know if you pronounce it Gadot or Gadot. She is a strength. She is terrific in the role of Wonder Woman. She's I always hear people say she's not a good actress. I don't know what people want. She is great in that role. And, those two, Gal Gadot and Pedro Pascal, they make the movie just worth watching. Another complaint I always hear is, and I've just watched the movie for the fourth time, mind you. I just watched it for the fourth time, and I hear people complain that Cheetah, the CGI for Cheetah looked fake. Well, I'll tell you, I just watched it for the fourth time. I don't think Cheetah was CGI. I think that those were practical effects because it just looked like face makeup. It looked like they put face makeup on Kristen Wiig and she was wearing a furry suit. It didn't look CGI. It looked like she was wearing some kind of fur suit with face makeup. That's not computer generated. So I don't even know what people are talking about when they say that. Like, I'm like, every time I hear that, I'm like, what did you watch? Because it doesn't even look like CGI. It looks like practical effects. So I don't understand. But I think this is a really good movie. It's not a great movie, but it's a good movie. And I can't wait to see Wonder Woman 3. So I'm glad I finally got to see it on the big screen. And go support your local movie theater. They need you. If you haven't seen Wonder Woman 84 yet, go see it in the big screen. It's not going to be on HBO Max much longer. They were only putting it on HBO Max for 30 days, so I think you got like 10 days left, and then you can't even watch it on HBO Max, but it'll still be playing in theaters, and you can go down to your local theater and check it out, and I recommend you do so. All right, everybody, until next time, keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas with the plastic feet. Keep wearing those pajamas. Tell everyone you meet. Keep wearing those pajamas with the back door flap. Keep wearing those pajamas. Don't open, it's a trap. Oh no, it's a trap. Some people call them PJs, some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander adamas, but no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now we're having fun. Keep wearing those pajamas. And now the song is done.